Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are undertaking an intellectual sprint, you could say, back to the 4th century. We're looking at a really foundational text, Aphrahat's demonstration on pure fasting. And look, if your idea of fasting is maybe giving up chocolate for Lent or, just skipping a meal here and there, well, prepare for a bit of a mindset shift. Aphrahat, writing in Syriac, he offers this really radical, all-encompassing definition. So our mission today is to unpack this text. Fasting isn't just about what you temporarily give up, but it's more like a total, permanent overhaul. Ethics, social life, spiritual life, the works.
Absolutely. And he doesn't waste any time setting up how crucial this is. What's really striking right from the start is how Aphrahat frames it. Pure fasting isn't some passive thing you do. No, it's presented as an active, essential strategy in, spiritual combat. He actually calls it a weapon against the evil one, and also a shield which receives the arrows of the adversary. So this isn't just about self-denial, it's like essential spiritual warfare prep.
Okay, a weapon. Let's unpack that analogy then. A weapon that comprehensive. It must have multiple components, right? Aphrahat is explicit. He says fasting is not only abstaining from bread and water. So he seems to be pushing the idea way beyond just, physical hunger.
Precisely. That's the key insight here. For Aphrahat, fasting becomes this huge umbrella term. It covers basically every possible tactic against the evil one. The literal, the hunger and thirst, that's really just the starting point. It also includes things like the abstinence needed to remain a virgin. He frames that as denying a kind of deep metaphorical hunger or thirst, for physical desire. And then there's abstinence through holiness that's in there, sometimes abstaining from specific things like meat or wine. But where it gets really radical, I think, is when he moves from diet to, demeanor. Your actual behavior.
The ethical fence. I really like that image he uses, building a fence around his mouth, right? Which means actively abstaining from speaking, what did he call them? Hateful words or injurious words.
Exactly. You got it. And the fast has to crush the desire to get angry. It even means abstaining from property. His argument is you've got to free yourself from those worldly ties to really commit to the spiritual work. It even involves abstaining from your bed, staying awake for prayer. It covers pretty much everything.
Wow. Okay, if I'm getting this right, that's an incredibly demanding system. It sounds almost impossible to keep up perfectly. And the stakes he sets are, frankly, terrifyingly high. Aphrahat's crystal clear. If someone vows abstinence from all these things, food, anger, bad speech, property, but then breaks just one of them, then that person is no longer considered to be fasting, period.
Yeah, it's definitely an all or nothing kind of deal, because the physical act, it's basically empty if the spiritual commitment isn't there. It really raises that fundamental question, doesn't it? Why bother starving yourself if your heart isn't right? Fasting is only accepted, he says, if it comes from purity of heart. If that inner attitude, that disposition isn't correct, then the outer stuff, the observance, it's completely worthless.
And he really drives that connection home. There's that vivid metaphor about the mouth, right? He calls the mouth the temple of God because it's the way the king enters, he means receiving the body and blood of Christ. So if that's the case, it becomes spiritually just, wrong, even insulting for manure and mud, his words for impure speech, to come out of that same opening. The entrance for holiness can't be the exit for filth.
Yeah, that image really hammers home the point that ethical purity is non-negotiable.
It really does. And this focus on the inner state, rather than just the outward show, it allows Aphrahat to do something quite bold. He looks back at the Old Testament and says, hey, certain figures demonstrated perfect fasting, even if the text doesn't mention them literally skipping meals at that moment.
Whoa, hang on. That's a big shift. Are you saying Aphrahat is kind of retroactively defining fasting for people who weren't necessarily on a diet fast? That's exactly what he's doing. He's arguing that the quality of their life, their integrity, was the fast. He points to Abel not for fasting from food, but for the purity of his offering. Enoch, because he found favor and walked with God. Noah, keeping his integrity in that corrupt generation. Abraham, excelling in faith. Even Joseph. His fasting was shown, Aphrahat argues, through compassion and good administration, their whole life's integrity. That was the purest fast before God in his view.
So these are like ethical fasts, but he doesn't dismiss the power of literal fasting when it's done right. He brings up those famous 40-day fasts.
Oh, absolutely not. He definitely respects the power of the literal fast. Moses, for instance, his 2 40-day fasts strengthened him immensely. He received outstanding glory. Remember, his face literally shone, and the power generated by that fast actually diverted God's anger from the Israelites. It's huge. And Elijah too. Fasting 40 days led directly to that profound revelation he got at Horeb. So for these heroes, yes, the physical fast was a powerful channel. It brought divine revelation, political intervention. It made their discipline truly perfect. But then the text forces us to look at the flip side, to contrast that pure practice with its polar opposite, the fast of injustice and of the shedding of blood. This is probably the ultimate example of using external piety to cover up just utter wickedness.
Right, and the case study he uses is chilling. Jezebel Naboth. Jezebel calls for a fast, but why? Specifically to set up the murder of Naboth, all so her husband, Ahab, could grab his vineyard. It's pure greed, a direct slap in the face to the command, you will not covet.
And what's really disturbing is how she twists the law. Jezebel didn't just ignore the holy law, she actually used it as her weapon. She decrees the fast, gets the elders together, and then finds 2 false witnesses. What do they testify? That Naboth reviled God and the king. And that specific charge, that required stoning under the law.
So she's ticking the boxes, using the requirement for 2 witnesses, the punishment for blasphemy, all parts of the holy law, just to disguise this incredibly unholy act.
Precisely. It's just a stunning example of using religious observance, even legal procedure, as a smokescreen for pure malice and injustice. And Aphrahat makes it very clear. This massive hypocrisy led to swift, just punishment. The Jezreelites who went along with it, and Jezebel herself, they were condemned. Their impure fast ended with their own blood being spilled right where Naboth's had been. And this leads Aphrahat to a wider warning, really, for his readers back then, and maybe for us too. He points out that even non-believers, or groups he calls the deceptive schools, people like Marcion, Valentinus, they might engage in really strict ascetic practice. They might fast intensely, but he says their effort isn't profitable. It's not rewarded unless it's built on the proper faith. Okay, so an impure fast isn't just about ethics. It can also be theological. Like Marcion's fasting is worthless if he denies the Creator God is good, no matter how much bread he skips. That seems to be the implication, yes. The foundation has to be right.
Which brings us back then to the ultimate pure fast. If the mouth has to be clean, the heart pure, then the truly acceptable fast is defined by actively, genuinely turning away from wickedness.
And the classic example he uses for that is the Ninevites. They famously had this huge citywide fast, right? Sackcloth, ashes, even the infants and cattle weren't given food or water. A massive display. But that display wasn't the main point. The text is clear about what God actually saw and responded to their good deeds. Specifically, that they were turning from their wicked ways and from the corrupt wealth which is in his hands. That was the key. The change in their behavior, their economy, their ethics. The fasting was the outward sign of an inner decision to stop doing wrong, stop profiting from corruption.
And this is where Aphrahat really connects it all, using the prophet Isaiah, isn't it? Fasting from wickedness itself is always more excellent than fasting from bread and water. It's better than just, bowing your head and looking humble. The real beauty of the fast, the real power, is in humbling yourself and then actively loosening the chains of impiety and cuts the bonds of deceit. So the fast becomes this tool, a tool for freeing yourself and maybe others from bad habits and oppressive ways.
And if the fast is a weapon, like we said at the start, well, Aphrahat shows how it could even be used for, historical justice. Look at the fasting of Mordecai and Esther.
Yes, this part gets really interesting. Because it's not just about palace intrigue, is it? Their fast was a shield of salvation. Yes, it made Haman's plot backfire spectacularly. But Aphrahat sees it as something bigger, correcting an ancient historical mistake.
Exactly. You need the deep backstory here, which Aphrahat provides. Haman is identified very specifically. He's a remnant of the Amalekites, an Agagite. Now, why does that matter so much? Because Mordecai, he was a descendant of King Saul.
The ancestral link. Okay, yeah, I remember this. Centuries before, Saul was commanded by God to completely destroy the Amalekites. But he messed up. He disobeyed. He spared their king, Agag. And that specific act cost Saul his own kingship.
That's the absolute core of Aphrahat's argument here. Mordecai's refusal to bow to Haman, which seems like maybe pride or politics on the surface, Aphrahat reads it differently. He argues Mordecai was consciously refusing to honor Haman because doing so would mean repeating the exact same historical sin his ancestor Saul committed by sparing King Agag, who was Haman's ancestor.
Wow. So the fast of Mordecai and Esther wasn't just about saving their own necks in the moment. It became this offensive weapon that allowed Mordecai to finally fulfill that original ancient command to completely wipe out the memory of Amalek under heaven. The fast became almost a supernatural way to fix history, to restore his ancestors' failure.
Yeah, it turned a crisis into a kind of historical completion. And this theme, this idea of spiritual combat involving unseen backup, It doesn't stop with humans. It brings in these really high-level heavenly allies. We see this clearly with Daniel's fast.
Right. Daniel undertook that really intense fast, 3 full weeks, 21 days. And it was explicitly for his people, wasn't it? To make sure they'd return from Babylon after the promised 70 years.
Correct. And during that whole 21-day period, Daniel wasn't just, praying into the ether alone.
Yeah.
No, his fast immediately got the attention of 2 major archangels. Gabriel, the one who receives prayer at all times, and Michael, described as their prince. The text actually pictures them standing there facing off against this powerful spiritual opponent, the Prince of Persia, for the entire 21 days Daniel was fasting.
That really puts Daniel's personal effort into a whole different cosmic light, doesn't it? His fasting was like the ground support for this massive spiritual battle happening just out of sight.
It was. And Aphrahat is clearly very interested in highlighting the power of these angelic allies. Michael, for example, he's identified as the leader of the armies of the Lord. The text basically gives him this incredible resume of divine power. He's the woman who appeared to Balaam's donkey, stopping the prophet's misguided trip. He's the angel credited with destroying that huge Assyrian army, 185,000 men. So Michael showing up, that signals top-tier spiritual military engagement.
And Gabriel is more the messenger, the communicator.
Exactly. Gabriel comes to strengthen Daniel, telling him point blank, "Your prayer has been heard," which confirms the fast is working. And he's presented as the one who brings pure prayers before God, not just Daniel's. Aphrahat also mentions Gabriel presenting Zechariah's prayer and helping Mary, whose prayer and fasting found favor. So their combined power, mobilized by Daniel's fast, ensured that critical goal, the release of the captives, was achieved, both spiritually and politically. So if we sort of bring this whole deep dive together, Aphrahat ends by reminding us who the ultimate leader of this spiritual army is. He concludes that Christ himself, well, he's greater than Gabriel, more excellent than Michael. And Christ fasted for us, on our behalf, and completely conquered the enemy.
Right. He didn't just beat the enemy, he then told us to fast and keep watch. Why? So that by the power of pure fasting, we might attain his rest. Okay, what does this all really mean for you listening right now? Pure fasting. In Aphrahat's view, it's clearly not just about your diet, not by a long shot. It's this comprehensive life discipline. It's meant for total victory over the adversary, the evil one, and it touches absolutely every part of your life, how you handle money, your temper, and yes, definitely the words that come out of your mouth.
Yeah, the big takeaway here is probably the sheer depth of commitment Aphrahat demands. It's a heavy mandate he lays down. If breaking just one small vow, one flash of anger, one careless, impure word breaks the entire fast, well, you really have to think about how solid or maybe how fragile your own commitment is.
It leaves you with a pretty pointed question, doesn't it? If you spend a whole day carefully abstaining from food and water, are you maybe canceling out that entire effort later? By failing to keep that fence around your mouth, by letting that manure and mud, those hateful, injurious words slip out. That's the ethical totality of the fast, he describes. And it's definitely something worth thinking about as you navigate your own spiritual battles.